Before we begin, I want to invite you into a moment, one that is honest, raw, and deeply human. Imagine loving someone so deeply, so completely, that they become a part of your legacy, but waking up one day and struggling to remember their name, their face, or even the sound of their laughter. Imagine knowing that a child carries your blood, your story, your history, yet your own mind refuses to give you access to that bond. This isn't just a story about memory, it's a story about love surviving in ways the mind cannot explain. It's about the quiet battles fought every day behind gentle smiles, confused glances, and moments of unexpected clarity. It's about the courage to face a world that becomes unfamiliar, even when surrounded by family. Today you are about to hear a voice that speaks through the fog of dementia, a voice that still feels deeply, even when it cannot remember clearly. A voice that reminds us that identity, connection, and love can exist beyond what the mind can hold. Stay with me, listen closely, let this story touch the part of you that still believes in the power of love, even in its most fragile form. Because what you're about to hear is not just a speech, it is a journey into what remains when memory fades, and how the heart continues to speak even when the mind cannot. Let's begin. The first keynote, memory loss versus emotional memory, captures one of the most complex and misunderstood realities of dementia. When dementia begins affecting the brain, it often disrupts the ability to recall names, relationships, and even the faces of people who have been part of a person's life for years. Logical memory, the type that holds facts and labels, fades first. Yet, even when this part of the mind weakens, another form of memory continues to operate beneath the surface. Emotional memory. Emotional memory does not rely on the ability to name someone or place them in a family tree. Instead, it responds to familiarity, tone of voice, presence, warmth, and patterns of affection. This is why a person with dementia may not be able to introduce their great-grandson by name, but when he enters the room, they may smile, soften, or show signs of calmness or joy. The emotional brain recognizes something safe and beloved even when the cognitive brain cannot retrieve the details. Dementia often creates a painful contrast. The heart feels what the mind cannot explain. Someone living with memory loss might say they don't know who a child is, yet still reach out for them instinctively. The sight of a familiar gesture, the sound of a laugh, or even the rhythm of tiny footsteps may evoke an internal response that brings comfort without clarity. Emotional memory can also trigger protective or nurturing instincts that operate independently of conscious knowledge. In this sense, love becomes something sensed rather than recalled, experienced rather than described. This distinction between types of memory helps explain why emotional reactions remain strong even when personal history fades. Many caregivers notice that people with dementia respond more positively to those they share deep emotional bonds with earlier in life. These reactions may come in brief flashes, moments when the person seems present, connected, and open, only to slip away moments later. It is not inconsistency, but the brain's attempt to function with its remaining strengths. Dementia reshapes memory, but it does not erase the capacity for feeling. Emotional memory stays rooted in the parts of the brain that remain active longer, allowing love, comfort, and familiarity to survive, even as names and details disappear. The second keynote, moments of clarity, refers to those brief and often unpredictable instances when a person living with dementia suddenly seems to come back to themselves. These moments can be incredibly powerful because they feel like windows opening in a mind that has been fogged over. Even though dementia steadily affects memory, communication, and awareness, the brain can still produce flashes where recognition sharpens, thoughts organize, and emotions connect more clearly. These periods are usually short, sometimes lasting only seconds or minutes, but their impact on both the individual and their loved ones can be profound. They represent a temporary lifting of the neurological barriers that dementia creates, allowing a glimpse of the person's true self, who they were before the disease and who they still are beneath its effects. These moments may come without warning. A familiar voice, a certain smell, a song from the past, or the presence of a loved one can trigger sudden clarity. In these moments, the person may remember a name they haven't spoken in months or recognize a face that usually feels like a stranger's. The mind briefly aligns enough for connection, making the individual more aware of their surroundings and more able to express thoughts and emotions. For a great-grandparent, it might mean recognizing the child they usually struggle to identify, recalling a detail about them, or showing clear affection that feels intentional rather than instinctive. These small breakthroughs can offer reassurance that the person is still present inside, still capable of feeling and understanding more than dementia may reveal on a daily basis. However, these moments can also carry emotional complexity. While they offer hope, they also remind everyone involved of what is being lost. The clarity fades often as quickly as it arrived, leaving behind confusion or exhaustion. The person with dementia may not realize what just happened, or they may feel frustrated when the clarity slips away again. For loved ones, the sudden return of recognition can be heartwarming, but its disappearance can be equally heartbreaking. Still, these moments matter deeply. They show that dementia doesn't erase the entire person. It simply hides parts of them behind layers of cognitive decline. The presence of these brief flashes indicates that connection is still possible, even if not in predictable or permanent ways. They serve as reminders that beneath the challenges of dementia, the essence of the individual continues to exist, capable of shining through even in the smallest, most fleeting moments. Identity struggle reflects the inner conflict a person with dementia experiences when familiar parts of their life begin slipping away. Identity is shaped by memories, relationships, life experiences, achievements, roles within the family, and dementia slowly blurs these defining pieces. When someone forgets names, places, or even their connection to loved ones, it is not just memory loss, it is the gradual unraveling of the framework that helps them understand who they are. This struggle can create moments of fear, confusion, and emotional disorientation. A great-grandparent who cannot remember their only great-grandson may feel a sense of something missing, even without knowing what that missing thing is. They might sense they should recognize a child or feel a bond they cannot explain, leaving them caught between knowing and not knowing themselves. As dementia progresses, individuals often attempt to hold onto fragments of their identity. They may repeat stories from their youth because those memories remain sharper. They may cling to routines or roles they once held because they help ground them. But when new generations enter their life, like a great-grandchild, they may struggle to place these new connections within the shifting landscape of their mind. The inability to connect present experiences with past understanding creates internal tension. The person may feel frustrated when their mind cannot retrieve a relationship they know should matter. This confusion can lead to emotional withdrawal or moments of agitation because they sense the world around them moving forward while they remain anchored in outdated or incomplete versions of themselves. The identity struggle is also shaped by the loss of cognitive abilities that once defined their independence and confidence. Tasks they could once perform effortlessly become challenging, and the awareness of these declining abilities can be painful. Interactions with family can trigger a sense of inadequacy when they cannot recall important details or fully participate in conversations. Yet deep within, the emotional and intuitive parts of their identity often remain strong. They may not remember how they are related to a child, but they may still express instinctive affection or protectiveness. These preserved emotional responses reveal that identity is not completely erased. It is reshaped into something less structured but still meaningful. This struggle is a daily battle as the person tries to reconcile the person they once were with the person dementia is forcing them to become. They may feel lost within themselves, yet still reach for connection and belonging, even when their memory cannot support it. Confusion and guilt captures the emotional weight that often accompanies dementia, especially when it affects relationships with younger generations. Confusion is a natural part of the condition, but the guilt that follows is frequently overlooked. Even when cognitive abilities decline, many individuals with dementia retain an emotional awareness that something is wrong, that memories are missing, and that they are unable to respond in the way they feel they should. This creates a painful internal conflict. A great-grandparent may look at their only great-grandson and sense a connection but be unable to place it. They may recognize that the child should be familiar, yet their mind cannot retrieve why. This mismatch between expectation and reality creates distress, leading to moments where the person feels lost within their own family. Guilt often arises from the awareness of letting others down. Even if unintentionally, the individual may not remember the child's name or may fail to respond with enthusiasm, and afterward they might experience an emotional heaviness without knowing exactly why. They may apologize frequently, not because they recall specific mistakes, but because they feel responsible for the discomfort their forgetfulness causes. Sometimes the guilt is quiet, expressed through withdrawn behavior, lowered eyes, or sudden sadness. Other times it manifests as frustration or irritability because the person senses the gap between what they want to do and what they are able to do. This emotional turmoil can intensify during family gatherings or important moments when the presence of children, especially a great-grandchild, is expected to bring joy. Instead, the lack of recognition can make the individual feel ashamed or inadequate. They may pretend to know who someone is, trying to cover the confusion to avoid disappointing those around them. This act of masking takes emotional energy and can lead to exhaustion or mood changes once the moment passes. The guilt is not only about forgetting people, it is also about losing the ability to fulfill roles they once cherished. A great-grandparent may feel they are failing in a role that should be filled with stories, affection, and pride. When their mind refuses to cooperate, they may grieve silently for what they cannot provide. Confusion and guilt intertwine in a cycle that is often invisible to others, but deeply felt by the person experiencing it, revealing that dementia affects not only memory, but the emotional core of identity and connection. Love beyond memory reflects the idea that affection and emotional connection can survive, even when the mind no longer holds the details of relationships. Dementia may erase names, faces, and shared experiences, but it does not erase the deeper emotional wiring that allows a person to feel love. This kind of love does not depend on recollection. It lives in instinct, body language, and the emotional centers of the brain that remain functional long after logical memory fades. When a person with dementia sees a great-grandson, they may not be able to identify who he is or how he is related, yet they can still feel drawn to him. They may smile, cry, soften in expression, or reach out with tenderness. These reactions come from emotional memory and are rooted in the long-standing habits of loving, nurturing, and connecting with family. Even when the mind struggles, the heart often responds naturally. The presence of a child can create a sense of calm or comfort because children bring energy, innocence, and a soothing emotional familiarity. A great-grandparent may not recall the child's birth or how many times they have seen him, but they may still feel protective or joyful in his presence. This emotional response is not based on recognition, but on a deep sense of human connection. The brain's emotional pathways, especially those linked to affection and bonding, remain active longer than the regions responsible for explicit memory. As a result, the person may express love in ways that bypass the need for cognitive clarity. Love beyond memory can also appear in subtle ways. A touch on the hand may bring a look of warmth. A child's laughter may spark a moment of joy. A shared moment, even if forgotten quickly, can leave an emotional impression that lingers inside the person with dementia, giving them comfort without their being able to explain why these emotional traces matter deeply, offering reassurance that their capacity to feel love is still present. It also reveals why people with dementia may gravitate towards certain individuals more than others, even without knowing who those individuals are. The emotional connection speaks louder than memory, guiding their reactions and behavior. For those around them, witnessing this type of love can be bittersweet. The mind may forget, but the emotional bond continues to shine through in unexpected moments, showing that love remains one of the last things dementia can touch, persisting in forms that transcend memory itself. Courage to speak about it emphasizes the strength required for someone experiencing dementia or their loved ones to openly share the emotional and cognitive challenges that come with the condition. Dementia often brings fear, embarrassment, and vulnerability, making it difficult to talk about the changes taking place inside the mind. Many individuals worry about being judged, misunderstood, or treated differently once others learn how much they struggle to remember. Admitting that they cannot recall important people such as a first and only great-grandson, can feel like exposing a deeply personal wound. It takes courage to acknowledge these losses out loud, because doing so means facing the reality of the disease rather than hiding behind moments of confusion or silence. Talking openly about dementia also requires the bravery to express complicated emotions. A person may feel grief for the memories slipping away, frustration with their inability to keep up with conversations, and guilt for how their struggles affect their family. Sharing these feelings can feel risky, especially when they fear causing sadness or worry for the people who care about them. But speaking about it can also bring relief. It allows them to reclaim some sense of control by naming what they are going through, even when so much of their life feels unpredictable. It also helps loved ones understand that moments of forgetfulness are not intentional, not a sign of disinterest, but a symptom of a condition that they cannot control. Courage is also needed from the family's side. It is not easy for a loved one to openly discuss how dementia is altering relationships, especially when it involves moments of lost recognition. A family member may struggle with heartbreak when a great-grandparent no longer remembers the child they cherish. Speaking about these experiences can stir painful emotions, but doing so fosters understanding, empathy, and support among relatives. Open conversations can help break the stigma that often surrounds dementia, showing that it is not something to hide or be ashamed of, but a reality that many families navigate. Choosing to talk about dementia creates space for connection rather than isolation. It opens the door for others to share their own experiences, seek help, and feel less alone. It also preserves the humanity of the person living with dementia, allowing their voice to be heard even as their memory fades. The courage to speak about it reflects a deep strength, revealing that honesty, vulnerability, and emotional truth can shine through even in the midst of cognitive decline. In the end, dementia may take memories, names, and moments, but it cannot take the heartbeat of love that lives within a family. Even when recognition fades, the emotional connection remains woven into every smile, every gentle touch, and every shared moment of presence. The struggle, the confusion, the guilt, and the fleeting moments of clarity all reflect a journey that is both painful and profoundly human. And through it all, the bond that exists, even without memory, shows that love is something deeper than the mind. It is something felt, something sensed, something that survives in ways words and recollection never could. This journey is not easy, but speaking about it, acknowledging it, and embracing it with compassion allows everyone involved to hold on to what truly matters, the unbreakable connection that lives beyond memory. Thank you for listening, for caring, and for opening your heart to this story. May you carry forward understanding, patience, and compassion for anyone walking this difficult path. Good luck as you continue to honor the moments that matter, cherish the connections that remain, and find strength in love that does not fade. Thank you truly for giving this story a place to be heard.